So, hi, Abby. How are you?
Hello, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm fine, and welcome to Choir Community. Thanks for being our new arranger, our featured arranger this week. It's really
You're
exciting.
welcome.
And so, what we're going to do with new arrangers as we welcome you on is to have a little, maybe a little interview. Could be the first of a series,
How exciting.
and we find out more about you and more about your the way you feel about music and how it all fits in. My first question goes right back, and I'd like to know what is your earliest awareness of music?
I remember being able to feel emotions when I listened to music without actually being able to express them. I've got a lot of memories of when I was probably too early to talk, when I heard songs, and I had like a little children's tape that my parents used to play for me, and it had certain songs on it that overwhelmed me with emotion, but I couldn't say what that emotion was. I can really recall that quite clearly. So I think music has always had a massive effect on my emotional well-being and my just feelings, really. I think I'd love to one day just go in an MRI scanner and have it, have them play certain songs to me and see what happens in my brain, because it's just always moved me and made me feel certain emotions. So I suppose it was natural,
That's
I
nice.
guess, that I started singing and playing instruments. And
Do you remember
yeah,
what any of those songs were on
I
that original
do. I
tape?
do. I remember Halfway Down the Stairs by Robin the Frog from the Muppets made me feel
Halfway up the
extremely
stairs
lonely
is a
and sad.
stair where I sit. I think wasn't he
Yeah,
Kermit's nephew or
he
something like
was.
that?
Yeah, and oh gosh, there was one a Rupert Bear song about a robin on a window, and the farmer came and shot the bird, and I was like devastated that this poor little bird had been shot. I don't think you'd be allowed to do that anymore in a song for children, but anyway.
I doubt it. Yes, there would be questions asked, wouldn't there?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
interesting. Oh, lovely. Well, that's lovely. I mean, were you picked out as musical at school, perhaps, or
Yeah, I think I'd always, I suppose I sang very, very early. Again, it was a form of expression to me that was more natural than talking. I was actually a very late talker, I think. I didn't start talking until I started singing before I started talking. So it just was always a language. Music was always a language that I understood, and I suppose as soon as I could make some kind of vocalization, that's what happened. So yeah, I spent I've been doing music since I was at primary school. Certainly I was always in the school plays and playing keyboards, and at that time, yeah, I was having keyboard lessons by the time I was 5, I think. So yeah.
that's good. Yes, so some teacher heard me singing rather too loudly in assembly. I think that's how I got called
I
out.
did used to have the other kids stare at me in assembly at primary school because I was singing with
Yeah.
like so much energy, and they were
What's she
like,
doing? She's getting all
yeah.
the notes right. Was it? And did you have a teacher, particularly one particular teacher who you remember encouraged you and inspired you in a certain way? Did
Yeah,
you?
very definitely. I was really, really shy for the first sort of half of my childhood. And then my family moved to Germany when I was 7, I think. And there was a teacher called Mr. Cowburn, and he kind of discovered that I could sing and really gave me loads of opportunities to be able to do that. I think he recognized that I was quite shy as a, when I was speaking in my natural personality, but I think he sort of recognized that if he made me do music, I sort of came alive. So he used to give me lots of parts in musicals and plays, and we had lots of opportunities there in Germany. Actually, we did our choir was on a big German pop record, and we all went to the studio, and it was, yeah. So there was so much opportunity to do music and to excel at it. So it was him that really pushed me and believed in me, and that definitely had a huge effect. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
terrific. Okay, so it sounds like you were a singer before you were a conductor.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, when I got to secondary school, I obviously knew at that point that I was musical, and I started having drum lessons and violin lessons and actual singing lessons in terms of going through grades with a qualified teacher. Um, And yeah, the conducting actually came in sixth form because I did music A level, and we had to compose as part of our syllabus, and I also had to conduct an orchestra actually for an orchestral composition that I did. And I think like on the side of that, I'd asked some of my friends in school if they fancied doing a bit of a gospel choir. It was for a house concert, just like a fun comedy kind of thing. And we did a sort of take on Sister Act. And I arranged 2 songs from the Sister Act films for that performance, and I was just like, oh my god, this is amazing. I love harmonies. I'd always loved harmonies. And I at home all through my childhood I used to I don't know if you used to do this as well. You'd get a cassette tape and record yourself singing onto the tape. Yes. And then I'd take that tape out and put it in a different stereo, press play on that stereo, so then it's hearing that voice, and then I can record that voice too, and you just keep rotating these tapes until you've layered up all the harmonies. And so I've always worked on that sort of basis, really done it by ear, and so putting together.
When the first Tascam thing came out, where you could use a cassette and actually had 4 tracks, that was amazing.
Yeah. And you could individually, do all these different things with them. It's very exciting.
Isn't it? Playing with recording studios, and you just find whatever you can to make it work.
Absolutely.
And so I want to ask you, when did you decide that music could become a career?
So that was an interesting point. It would have been in sixth form again, probably before that. I went to quite a strict school, and music wasn't considered a real profession. It wasn't really considered a worthwhile subject. It was very far down the list of, we were sort of encouraged to be doctors and lawyers and accountants and whatever else, but music and drama was so low on the list of priorities at school. And I do remember having a conversation with my careers advisor about wanting to be a musician, and she just did not know what to say, and her advice to me was to join the RAF so I could be in the RAF band. It was like, yeah, okay, I'm talking to the wrong person here. So what I ended up doing was I applied for university because I knew that everybody wanted that for me, and I took a year out to do music because at that stage while I was doing my A levels, I was already going out doing gigs as well. So I'd signed up to some agents around Lincolnshire where I lived at the time, and I was going out doing gigs in the pub and club circuit. Mm-hmm. As well as my A levels. So I'd already sort of set up a little bit of a sort of self-employed business in music. And I told my parents and my teachers that I would, just do that for a year, and then I'd go off to uni and do languages, which was what I was planning to do. And I just kept doing that. And I did a little bit of teaching on the side. But it was mostly gigging. And I'd say it was probably, 90% gigging, 10% teaching, which that ratio has changed and fluctuated throughout the years I've been a musician. But I was 17 when I started gigging, and in that year out where I did music, I did some teaching and some gigging, and one thing leads to another, and then someone asks you to lead this group, and someone asks you to join that arts organization, and then I just cancelled my place. I knew I was going to. I didn't really want to go to uni to do languages. I've always wanted to just do music. So it was kind of like a little step in, see how I go, and then and it just kept going basically.
I'm very pleased it did.
Thank you.
So how did you get into community choirs then, and when did you discover the concept?
Yeah, well, I spent probably the first 8 years of being self-employed. I worked for some different arts organizations, and I was teaching children. So I had a number of children's choirs, and I was going into primary schools and secondary schools on the Sing Up project. I used to be a Sing Up leader. Yep. And I was also training staff, but it was mostly happening in nurseries, in daycare centres, Sure Start centres, and primary schools and secondary schools. And I was also teaching teenagers in youth centres, and I think I was teaching in colleges too, actually, at the time. I think I got to a stage where I thought, wouldn't it be great to teach people who really want to learn to sing? Because I think I'd had so many years of teaching people who had been told they had to sing, and I just thought, oh, it wouldn't be amazing if people just like loved singing and just wanted to sing. And that's, I didn't have to force them into anything, or their parents hadn't forced them, or their teachers hadn't forced them, that they just wanted to do it themselves. So I left all the arts organizations I worked for, and I went completely self-employed. And I decided I'm just going to do choirs. That's it. No other things. Just like, I do play other instruments, but I don't feel, I suppose, confident or competent enough to teach instruments. And singing was always my love. And I think I kind of came to a bit of a crossroads where I was like, what do I actually want to do, rather than all the things you do because you have to? And, and I thought, what do I actually want to do? And the answer was to work with people who want to sing. That's my specialism. That's my absolute passion. And so I just put posters and leaflets out, and I said, hey, I'm going to be starting a choir here. Come along. You don't need any qualifications. You don't need to be able to read music. You don't need to have, it literally is just, let's get together and sing. And I started
another community choir and say, I want to do that. You thought the whole idea, you had the idea inside you already.
Yeah. I mean, I just thought I just want to teach
Like so
people
many
who want to sing.
That's funny, isn't it? Because I'm finding that so often these days. We find, there's a massive sort of network of community choirs. It's not really, because it's just a lot of different people in different places who made the same decision as you or I did.
Exactly.
Or fell into it somehow. That
Yeah.
They've all started up at the same time for a different.
Yeah, it is interesting, because I mean, singing now at choirs, there's just so many choirs. It's huge, but it wasn't back then. I'm talking about 10 years ago now. It wasn't such a big thing, and it was a little bit kind of, oh, a choir, that's, they weren't in every town and city and village. And I suppose it was before the Gareth Malone era. I think that was possibly the point when it really.
I love your previous statement. The choir for people who really want to do it, but maybe they haven't had that training because they haven't been picked out, and they're not singers. And it's a different sort of choral music, which I suppose is why our arranging has sort of had to be part of it, because the stuff we wanted to sing simply didn't exist, did it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for me as well, I kind of, well, certainly with my first choir that really took off, I arranged for them. That's how I've ended up with so many of my own arrangements, because I was writing songs for that. Well, not original music, but songs that I thought they would do a really good job of, or that I really loved or was passionate about. And I just ended up tailoring it to them. We had no basses in the choir, so I just didn't write any bass parts. I just did everything in 3 parts. It was all soprano, alto, tenor. And eventually, as the choir got bigger and bigger and bigger, and more people joined, and the demographic changed, I suddenly had more men, and then I could write a bass. I remember a point where all of my arrangements went from 3 parts to 4 parts, and it was actually a very interesting time, because my arrangements got much more interesting, and I put loads of effort into them. And also, I think the other thing that makes my arrangements very much me is because I'm a musician and a singer-songwriter, and I've always played in bands. I almost see a choir as a band, in that there's a rhythm section and a percussion section and a melody and a harmony, and I hear it all as if they were different instruments. So quite a lot of the time in my later arrangements, I've got a lot of percussive sounds and a lot of rhythmic like counterparts and offbeat rhythms. And then, even later than that, I realized that if you just give one section that bass line all the way through, they're going to get horribly bored and hate singing it. So then I started playing around with, well, okay, they could have the tune there, but then they could pass it to there, and that person can take that, and suddenly it is like another layer to where the arrangements can go. And now I try my hardest to make sure that every single part has got something interesting to sing. So they've either got the tune, or if they have got a rhythm part, then they've got words and tune later on, which makes everything much more complicated, but it's, I think, more rewarding for all the singers.
You've just answered my next question, which is a bit about your approach and your ethos.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. No, it's flowing beautifully. And I was fascinated there. So your 3 arrangements that we're adding are Everywhere, Human, and Long Train Running.
Yeah.
Pick your favourite one of those and explain how you chose that song and a bit of a story behind it, maybe.
I'm really bad at answering that question because dependent on my mood, each one is my favorite. It depends
Of
what
course.
day. I think at the time probably I really got into Human by Rag and Bone Man. When that song came out, I just thought it was amazing. And it sounds awful, but it's rare that a new song comes out and makes me go, oh my God, that's amazing. You know, a lot of stuff just passes me by these days, but
Yeah. You're
I
not alone.
really,
You're not alone.
no, I guess not. I just really thought that song was so cool, and it had this really slow, dark groove, and and doing it with choirs was really interesting because it just kept speeding up, getting faster and faster and faster, and I was trying to slow it down. But I think, you know, when with singers, they're so keen. I don't know if you find the same thing when you've got a choir in front of you. They're so keen to get it right, and they're putting so much effort in that it's all push, push, fast, 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 and you have to kind of go, wait,
And they
be
fill the gaps.
cool.
They fill the gaps.
Yeah,
You
it's
can't wait.
offbeat and it's cool. And it was a lot of work doing that one because there's a lot of again, I've put a lot of offbeat clicks and claps and stuff, and we had some movements, and I did a lot of movement work with the choir on Human. We actually almost had separate rehearsals for the movement and then the singing and the harmonies and stuff. But it just makes it a very interesting song to work with. There's so many layers to it, and it's quite a discipline to keep a tempo steady and slow when it's so groovy. So maybe Human.
We might try that with my choir here. And finally, I want to ask you how you came across choir community, and what were your initial thoughts about choir community when you?
Well, I went to the Natural Voice Network annual gathering a couple of years ago, and I started talking to Gitika, another one of one of your arrangers, and well, part of the company, really,
yes,
isn't she?
she's a partner.
She's
She's
the
right.
lady, she's the woman.
Yes.
Yeah, and I got talking to her because I by this point I'd already written or arranged, should I say, about 50 songs, and I was just only using them for my choirs. Nobody else had access to them, and I was getting people saying, I've heard you doing this arrangement, where can I get it? And it was always that massive worry of, I don't know what the legalities are here. Am I allowed to sell these? And then you find out that you're not allowed to sell them, or you sort of can, but if you get, there's just so many, all the licensing and royalties and all of that kind of stuff is just so confusing and vague. I think, you speak to lots of different people and get different answers, and you never really know what the score is. And so I'd got this massive batch of arrangements that I was doing nothing with, other than teaching my choirs. And I thought it would be really lovely to let other choirs have them, but I'm not entirely sure how to go about that. So I was talking to Gitika about this, and it was her that mentioned ChoirCommunity, and she gave me one of your little business cards, and I gave it a call about a year and a bit ago, and I spoke to Piers, and he told me about what you do, and I really liked, although there were various options I could have gone with as to how to get my arrangements out there, I really valued the ethos that you have, with it being so community based and so much about getting directly to the choirs and making it about making them accessible to so many choirs, and really just encouraging choir singing in the UK, well, not even the UK, everywhere. And it felt like both you and Piers were really trying to make this whole legalities and royalties thing, really doing it properly and making it so that you're not scared of it and you don't know what you're talking about. And it's, so it feels much more clear, and it's great that somebody is making the effort to do that, because I think it's just such a minefield, really.
It is. Well, it's lovely to have you on and to have your arrangements. I know there's many, many, many more.
There are.
Quite a bit of work. Even getting one song on the site is quite a lot of work, isn't it?
I'm just going to keep flooding you with them.
Licensing, arranging, and making sure it's all tied up, and the scores look the same as the recordings.
Yeah.
It's great stuff. So thank you so much for coming. Is there anything else you'd like to sign off with?
No, just I'm really pleased to be here finally. It's you know, we've been kind of conversing for a while about stuff, and it's really nice to actually have them have all that work there and available for choirs. So so hello everybody, nice to meet you. I hope you enjoy singing the arrangements, and as Craig said, there's lots more to come. So yeah, hope to see you out there singing in the singing world.
We look forward to that massively. Thank you, Abby, so much for coming on today.
You're welcome. Cheers. Thank you.
Bye.